space exploration is remembered as one of humanity's greatest triumphs. A story of courage, of innovation, of humans stepping beyond Earth, touching the unknown, and returning as heroes. But history only remembers the missions that came back. Every photograph we see, every name engraved into museums, every anniversary celebrated, represents survival. What history rarely acknowledges are the missions that never returned, the launches that failed, the voices that stopped transmitting. During the Cold War, space exploration wasn't just science, it was power. It was ideology. It was proof of superiority. Every launch carried political weight, every success was announced to the world, and every failure was buried. Official records tell us that the first deaths related to spaceflight came years later, after technology improved, after safety protocols were established, after humanity learned how dangerous space truly was. But there is another story. A darker one. A story that suggests some missions never made it into the history books at all. No names, no photographs, no funerals. Only fragments, strange signals, and recordings that were never meant to exist. This is the story of the Lost Cosmonauts. In the late 1950s and early 1960s, the Soviet Union was under enormous pressure. The United States had launched satellites into orbit. The world was watching closely. To fall behind meant humiliation on a global scale. So the Soviet space program accelerated. Deadlines tightened, testing windows shortened. Engineers raised concerns, warnings were issued, but political urgency often overruled technical caution. Safety was important, but victory was essential. And above all else, secrecy was absolute. The Soviet Union did not announce launches in advance. Cosmonauts were revealed to the public only after successful missions. Parades and medals were reserved for survivors. If a mission failed, officially it never happened. This culture of silence created a system where disasters could vanish without a trace, where entire missions could be erased from public memory. And according to some, they were. Far from Moscow, in northern Italy, two brothers were listening. Achille and Giovanni Battista Giudica Cordiglia were amateur radio operators. They were young, curious, and fascinated by the emerging age of spaceflight. While governments launched rockets, the brothers built antennas. They set up their listening stations inside a former German military bunker near Turin. They named it Torre Bert. From this quiet, isolated location, they monitored radio frequencies used by early spacecraft. They tracked signals, recorded transmissions, documented anomalies. They weren't spies. They weren't scientists. They had no political agenda. They were simply listening to the sky. And according to them, the sky spoke back. In 1960, almost a full year before Yuri Gagarin officially became the first human in space, the brothers intercepted something that made them stop speaking altogether. A signal. Steady, rhythmic, a heartbeat. Not mechanical, not simulated. A biological signal being transmitted from orbit. If authentic, it meant something unthinkable. Someone was already in space, alive. The brothers recorded it. That tape still exists today. A slow human heartbeat, beating steadily until it suddenly stops. When the recording surfaced, Soviet officials denied everything. There was no such mission, no such cosmonaut, no human in orbit at that time. The explanation was simple. Interference, coincidence, misinterpretation. But the brothers didn't stop listening. They continued monitoring frequencies day and night. Over the next several years, they claimed to intercept additional signals, Morse code transmissions repeating SOS, fragments of broken speech in Russian, breathing that sounded strained, labored, desperate. These weren't triumphant broadcasts. They weren't celebratory. They sounded like distress. Then in November of 1963, the brothers recorded something that would become the most disturbing part of the Lost Cosmonauts legend. A woman's voice, speaking Russian. At first, the transmission is faint, barely audible beneath layers of static. The voice is calm, measured, professional. She sounds trained, composed. Then something begins to change. Her breathing grows uneven. Her sentences shorten. She mentions heat. She says it's getting hot. Very hot. The calm dissolves. Panic creeps into her voice. She says she is burning. The transmission begins to distort. Static overwhelms the signal. Her voice rises, strained and frightened. Then it cuts out completely. No official Soviet mission ever acknowledged a woman dying in space at that time. No name, no capsule, no wreckage. Once again, Soviet authorities denied everything. Skeptics dismissed the recording as a hoax, radio interference, a misidentified signal. But even critics admitted something unsettling. The voice didn't sound scripted. It didn't sound theatrical. It didn't sound staged. It sounded confused. Human. As years passed, historians and researchers tried to dismantle the Lost Cosmonauts theory. They examined declassified documents, reviewed launch schedules, compared orbital trajectories. Some found inconsistencies. Others found explanations. But no definitive conclusion ever emerged. Nothing proved the recordings were real, and nothing proved they weren't. They existed in a space between truth and denial, which in itself was deeply disturbing. Because the Soviet Union had a documented history of hiding disasters, of erasing failures, of prioritizing image over human life. That reality leaves an uncomfortable possibility. Not that every recording's real, but that one might be, and that someone, somewhere, reached orbit and never returned. Not because of malfunction alone, but because acknowledging their death would have damaged a narrative. Most retellings stop here, with uncertainty, with debate. But the recordings remain, and once you hear them, they stay with you. What you're about to hear has never been officially verified. No space agency has confirmed its origin, but the recording exists, and it has unsettled listeners for decades. If it's fake, it's one of the most convincing hoaxes ever recorded. And if it's real, then someone died alone in space, while the world celebrated progress below. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, many believed the truth would finally surface. Archives were opened, records were reviewed, but no lost missions were officially confirmed. No forgotten cosmonauts named. Only gaps. And that absence is what makes the Lost Cosmonauts so unsettling. Not the mystery itself, but the idea that death can be erased completely. That someone can cross beyond Earth and vanish without record. In space, there are no witnesses, no graves, no memorials, only silence. We like to believe space exploration is a story of triumph, but sometimes progress leaves people behind. Whether the lost cosmonauts were real may never be proven, but the fear they represent is real. That someone reached beyond our planet and never returned. No rescue, no recognition, no memory. Just a voice cutting through static before disappearing forever. And if those recordings are real, then the darkest moment in space exploration didn't happen on live television. It happened quietly, unacknowledged, unheard, by everyone except those who were listening.